Okay, so you want to own a bowling alley. The sound of pins crashing, families celebrating strikes, league nights with packed lanes, birthday parties every weekend, a full-service bar and restaurant, arcade games lining the walls. It is recession-proof entertainment that has been around for generations. You collect lane fees, sell food and drinks at high margins, and watch the revenue roll in while people enjoy themselves. Sounds like the perfect business. And honestly, from the outside, it really does look that way. But here is what people who actually invest in this business know, and what most people driving past a busy Saturday night bowling alley never tell you. A bowling alley is not a real estate play with pins attached. It is a capital-intensive, operationally complex entertainment and food service hybrid with massive fixed costs, declining participation rates, and a business model that only works at significant scale. The revenue per lane is real. The utility bills are real, in ways that most people never see coming. Let's start at the beginning. When people say they want to own a bowling alley, they are usually picturing one of three distinct formats. The traditional bowling center, 16 to 32 lanes, league-focused, minimal food service beyond a snack bar. The format that dominated from the 1950s through the 1990s and is now steadily declining. The family entertainment center model, 12 to 24 lanes integrated with extensive arcade games, laser tag, mini golf, party rooms, and full-service dining. Essentially a Dave & Buster's that happens to have bowling. And the boutique bowling lounge, 6 to 12 upscale lanes with premium food, craft cocktails, music, and a nightclub atmosphere targeting adults. The format trying to reinvent bowling as hip rather than nostalgic. Each format has completely different economics, different capital requirements, different customer profiles, and different paths to profitability. For this analysis, we are focusing on the traditional to mid-scale family entertainment bowling center, the 20 to 28 lane format that represents the majority of the industry and the most common acquisition or startup scenario. Here is something that surprises people when they first look at this industry. Bowling participation has been in steady decline for decades. In 1998, approximately 43 million Americans bowled at least once. By 2018, that number had dropped to around 67 million total participants, but the number of frequent bowlers, those bowling 8+ times per year, dropped from 11 million to under 9 million. The rise of video games, streaming entertainment, youth sports, and a cultural shift away from organized leagues has steadily eroded the customer base that traditional bowling alleys depended on. League bowling, which once represented 70% to 80% of weekly lane revenue at traditional centers, now accounts for 40% to 55% at most locations. League bowlers are aging. The average age of a league bowler is now over 50. Younger generations are not replacing them at the same rate. This demographic shift is the fundamental challenge facing the industry. The business model was built on consistent, recurring league play. That foundation is eroding. But let's go back to the beginning. Let's say you want to buy an existing 24-lane bowling center. The first thing you need to understand is that bowling alleys are real estate-intensive businesses. A 24-lane center typically occupies 25,000 to 35,000 square feet. The lanes themselves, each 60 feet long from foul line to pins plus the approach area, take up approximately 10,000 to 14,000 square feet. Add the seating areas behind the lanes, the front desk and shoe rental counter, the pro shop if you have one, the bar and restaurant area, the arcade section, restrooms, mechanical rooms, and storage, and you quickly exceed 30,000 square feet. That kind of space requires either a large standalone building or a significant portion of a retail center. In most markets, commercial real estate of that size in a decent location costs $150 to $300 per square foot to purchase. A 30,000 square foot building at $200 per square foot is $6 million just for the real estate before equipment, furnishings, or improvements. Most buyers do not purchase the real estate. They lease. A long-term commercial lease on 30,000 square feet at $12 to $18 per square foot annually, common rates for secondary retail space, costs $360,000 to $540,000 per year, or $30,000 to $45,000 per month. That rent is a fixed cost that runs whether you have 100 bowlers or 10 bowlers on any given day. Now let's talk about the equipment, the part that most people underestimate dramatically. A bowling lane is not just a wooden floor with pins at the end. It is a complex mechanical system. Each lane consists of the lane surface itself, traditionally made of wood, maple for the approach and pine for the main lane, or increasingly, synthetic materials that require less maintenance. The cost to refinish or replace a single wooden lane surface is $8,000 to $15,000. Multiply that by 24 lanes and you are looking at $192,000 to $360,000 just for the lane surfaces. The Pinsetters machines, the mechanical systems that reset the pins after each ball, are the heart of the operation. Modern pin setting machines from Brunswick or AMF, the two dominant manufacturers, cost $18,000 to $28,000 per lane installed. For 24 lanes, that is $432,000 to $672,000. These machines are extraordinarily complex with hundreds of moving parts, motors, belts, sensors, and pneumatic systems. They run constantly during operating hours and require continuous maintenance. The ball return systems, the underground conveyors that return balls from the pins back to the bowler, cost $3,000 to $6,000 per lane. The automatic scoring systems, the overhead monitors and computers that track scores, display animations, and manage game flow, cost $4,000 to $8,000 per lane for modern touchscreen systems. The seating and scoring consoles, the furniture and tables behind each lane, run $2,500 to $5,000 per lane. Add it all up and the bowling equipment alone for 24 lanes costs approximately $700,000 to $1.1 million. But you are not done. You need a complete shoe rental inventory, 200 to 400 pairs of rental shoes in all sizes, $8,000 to $15,000. A ball inventory for house balls, 100 to 150 balls in various weights, $4,000 to $7,000. A complete point-of-sale system for the front desk, food service, and arcade, $12,000 to $25,000. Kitchen equipment if you have food service, grills, fryers, ovens, refrigeration, prep tables, $40,000 to $85,000 for a full-service kitchen, or $15,000 to $30,000 for a basic snack bar operation. If you have an arcade, each game costs $3,000 to $8,000. A modest 20-game arcade costs $60,000 to $120,000. Furniture for the restaurant and bar area, tables, chairs, booths, bar stools, $25,000 to $50,000. Audio and visual systems, the speakers, amplifiers, TVs, and lighting systems including cosmic bowling black lights and effects, $30,000 to $60,000. You are buying an existing center, so much of this equipment is already in place. But here is the critical question. How old is it and what condition is it in? Pinsetter machines have a functional lifespan of 15 to 25 years with proper maintenance. If the center you are buying has 20-year-old equipment, you are looking at major capital expenditures within the first few years of ownership. Lane surfaces need refinishing every 2 to 5 years depending on use volume. Scoring systems become obsolete as technology advances and parts become unavailable. A typical existing 24-lane bowling center in a secondary market, not in a major metro but in a mid-sized city or large suburb, sells for $1.2 million to $3.5 million depending on the condition of the equipment, the terms of the lease or whether real estate is included, the revenue and profitability history, and local market conditions. Let's assume you find a center for sale at $2 million including all equipment and assuming a favorable lease. You put down 25% or $500,000 and finance $1.5 million at 7.5% over 15 years. Your annual debt service is approximately $166,000 or $13,800 per month. Now let's talk about revenue. How does a bowling alley actually make money? There are 5 primary revenue streams. Lane rental fees, charged by the hour or by the game. Open play bowlers, walk-ins and families, typically pay $4 to $7 per game per person or $25 to $45 per hour per lane depending on time and day. League bowlers pay discounted rates, often $12 to $18 per person for 3 games. Shoe rentals, for $1 to $6 per pair, charged to nearly every customer since very few bring their own shoes. Food and beverage sales, the bar and restaurant component. This can represent 30% to 50% of total revenue at centers with full-service dining. Pro shop sales, bowling balls, bags, shoes, accessories, and drilling services for serious bowlers. This is a small percentage of revenue, 2% to 5%, but can be high margin. Arcade and game revenue if you have arcade games, redemption games, pool tables, or other attractions. And event and party revenue, birthday parties, corporate events, fundraisers, which are often the most profitable per hour revenue the lanes generate. A reasonably busy 24-lane center in a decent market generates total annual revenue of $900,000 to $1.8 million depending on utilization, pricing, and the strength of the food and beverage program. Let's work with a mid-range scenario, $1.3 million in annual revenue. That breaks down roughly as follows. Lane and shoe rental, $650,000 or 50%. Food and beverage, $455,000 or 35%. Arcade and pro shop, $130,000 or 10%. Events and parties, $65,000 or 5%. Now we subtract the brutal reality of operating expenses. Labor is the single largest cost. You need staff across multiple functions. Front desk attendants handling check-ins, shoe rentals, lane assignments, and payments. Food and beverage staff, cooks, bartenders, servers if you have table service. Maintenance technicians, the skilled mechanics who keep the pinsetter machines, ball returns, and scoring systems running. This is specialized knowledge. Party and event coordinators managing birthday parties and group bookings. Managers overseeing daily operations, scheduling, inventory, customer service. Cleaning and janitorial staff maintaining restrooms, dining areas, and the lanes themselves. A 24-lane center operating 80 to 100 hours per week typically employs 25 to 45 people, mostly part-time. Staffing needs vary dramatically by day and time. A Tuesday afternoon might need 4 to 6 staff. A Saturday with cosmic bowling, birthday parties, and open play might need 18 to 25 people working simultaneously. Total annual labor costs at a center generating $1.3 million in revenue typically run 28% to 35% of revenue, or $364,000 to $455,000 annually. That includes wages, payroll taxes, workers' compensation insurance, and minimal benefits. Rent or occupancy costs, if you are leasing, run $360,000 to $540,000 annually as discussed. That is 28% to 42% of revenue. This is the killer fixed cost that runs regardless of how many people show up. If you own the building with a mortgage, your mortgage payment plus property taxes and insurance might run $280,000 to $400,000 annually, somewhat lower but still a massive fixed cost. Utilities are shockingly high. A bowling alley is an enormous building that operates 12 to 16 hours per day, 7 days a week. You are heating or cooling 30,000 square feet. You are running 24 pinsetter machines, each with multiple motors. You are powering scoring computers, arcade games, kitchen equipment, dozens of overhead lights, black lights for cosmic bowling, and sound systems. A 24-lane center typically consumes 60,000 to 100,000 kilowatt-hours of electricity per month. At commercial rates of 10 cents to 14 cents per kilowatt-hour, that is $6,000 to $14,000 per month in electricity alone. Add natural gas for heating and cooking, water for restrooms and kitchen, and trash removal, and total monthly utility costs run $7,000 to $16,000, or $84,000 to $192,000 annually. That is 6.5% to 15% of revenue just to keep the lights on. Cost of goods sold for food and beverage runs 25% to 32% of food and beverage revenue. On $455,000 in F&B sales, that is $114,000 to $146,000 in food and beverage costs. Bowling supplies, lane oil applied weekly to maintain proper lane conditions, cleaning supplies, shoe deodorizers, toilet paper, paper towels, run $1,500 to $3,000 per month, or $18,000 to $36,000 annually. Maintenance and repairs, this is the category that destroys unprepared owners. Pinsetter machines break constantly. A motor burns out. A belt snaps. A pin elevator jams. A sensor fails. Each repair costs $150 to $600 in parts and labor if you have an in-house technician, or $200 to $800 if you call a service contractor. Industry data suggests budgeting 5% to 8% of revenue annually for equipment maintenance and repairs. On $1.3 million in revenue, that is $65,000 to $104,000 per year just keeping the equipment functional. Insurance, general liability, property, liquor liability if you serve alcohol, workers' comp, runs $24,000 to $45,000 annually. Credit card processing fees, now that 70% to 80% of transactions are cashless, run 2.5% to 3% of revenue, or $32,500 to $39,000. Marketing and advertising, $2,000 to $5,000 per month, or $24,000 to $60,000 annually. Property taxes if you own the real estate, $18,000 to $50,000 depending on assessed value and local rates. Business licenses, permits, music licensing fees for ASCAP and BMI, $3,000 to $6,000 annually. Let's add it all up for a 24-lane center doing $1.3 million in annual revenue. Labor, 32%, or $416,000. Rent/occupancy, 33%, or $429,000. Utilities, 10% or $130,000. Food and beverage COGS, 10% or $130,000. Maintenance and repairs, 6.5% or $85,000. Supplies, 2% or $26,000. Insurance, 2.5% or $32,500. Credit card fees, 2.5% or $32,500. Marketing, 3% or $39,000. Licenses and fees, 0.5% or $6,500. Total operating expenses, approximately 102% of revenue, or $1.326 million. You are operating at a $26,000 annual loss before debt service. After your $166,000 annual loan payment, you are losing $192,000 per year. This is the financial reality that most people never see until they are inside the business. The gross revenue looks substantial. The expenses consume everything and then some. The business only works if you operate significantly above this revenue level, drive substantially higher food and beverage sales which carry better margins, or own the real estate outright with no mortgage, eliminating that massive fixed cost. Here is the part of the business that most people do not understand until they operate it. Bowling alleys have extreme utilization variability. Friday night from 7 p.m. to midnight, your lanes are full. Saturday afternoon, birthday parties, fully booked. Sunday morning, league play, 18 lanes committed for 3 hours. But Tuesday at 2 p.m., you might have 2 lanes in use. Wednesday morning, maybe 4 bowlers total in a 24-lane center. You cannot adjust your fixed costs to match this demand variability. You are paying the same rent whether 10 people are bowling or 200. You still need to heat and cool the building. You still need minimum staffing. The pinsetter machines still need maintenance. This is why bowling alleys struggle financially. The capacity utilization outside of peak periods is devastating to unit economics. The industry average capacity utilization for bowling centers is approximately 30% to 40%. That means out of all available lane hours across a week, only 30% to 40% are actually generating revenue. A 24-lane center operating 90 hours per week has 2,160 available lane hours. At 35% utilization, only 756 lane hours are rented. You have 1,404 lane hours of empty capacity, which is pure waste in a fixed-cost business. Here is what actually happens day to day when you own a bowling alley. You arrive mid-morning, 10 or 11 a.m. You are checking that the overnight cleaning crew properly cleaned the lanes, the dining area, and the restrooms. You are reviewing the maintenance log. Lane 14 had a ball return jam last night. Your technician cleared it, but you need to monitor it. Lane 8's scoring system froze twice yesterday. That could be a software issue or a sensor problem. You are checking inventory, both food and beverage and bowling supplies. You are running low on a specific weight of house balls. You need to order lane oil. You are handling league administration. The Tuesday night league has a complaint about lane conditions. They claim the oil pattern is inconsistent between lanes. You are scheduling staff for next week, covering a shift because someone called out, interviewing a new applicant for a bartender position. You are coordinating with 3 different birthday parties scheduled for Saturday, confirming headcounts, dietary restrictions, setup times. A pinsetter machine goes down at 2 p.m. on lane 17. Your technician is on it, but that lane is out of service for 40 minutes during open play. You have to move customers, apologize, potentially comp some games. You are managing the kitchen, reviewing food costs with your chef, discussing a menu change. You are fielding a complaint from a customer who says their credit card was charged twice. You need to research the transaction and process a refund. You are monitoring the cosmic bowling setup for Friday and Saturday nights, testing the black lights, checking that the fog machine works, coordinating the music playlist. You are reviewing financial reports, comparing this week's revenue to last week and to the same week last year. You are down 8% year over year. You need to figure out why and adjust. You are not collecting passive real estate income. You are managing a complex entertainment and food service operation that combines the operational challenges of a restaurant, a mechanical maintenance facility, and an event venue all in one business. Let's talk about the competitive threat that has reshaped this industry. Bowling is competing not just with other bowling alleys, but with an entire universe of entertainment options. Movie theaters, trampoline parks, escape rooms, axe-throwing venues, virtual reality arcades, Topgolf, Dave & Buster's, home entertainment, streaming services, video games, youth sports leagues. All of these are competing for the same discretionary entertainment dollars and time. The traditional bowling alley that depended on league play and offered minimal food service beyond nachos and hot dogs has been steadily losing relevance. The formats that are surviving and occasionally thriving are those that have reinvented the experience. Upscale food and beverage programs with craft cocktails and chef-driven menus, party and event focus with dedicated event coordinators and premium party packages. Integration with other attractions like laser tag, arcade redemption games, or ropes courses, and premium environments with modern design, comfortable seating, and nightclub-style atmospheres. But all of those upgrades require capital. Converting a tired 1980s bowling center into a modern entertainment destination costs $1.5 million to $4 million in renovations. New scoring systems, lane refinishing, complete interior redesign, upgraded kitchen, expanded bar, new furniture, lighting, and sound systems. That capital investment only makes sense if you can drive significantly higher revenue and prove that the market will support the premium pricing required to justify the investment. Here is a specific risk that has accelerated in recent years: the labor shortage. Bowling alleys, like all hospitality businesses, were hit hard by COVID-related closures and have struggled to rebuild staffing. The work is part-time, often evenings and weekends, and pays modestly. Skilled pinsetter mechanics, the technicians who can actually diagnose and fix complex machine issues, are aging out and not being replaced. Younger workers have more options. You are competing with restaurants, retail, warehouses, and gig economy platforms for the same labor pool. When you cannot fully staff the center, you either reduce operating hours, losing revenue, or you work the shifts yourself, which limits your ability to manage the business strategically. Many smaller bowling centers have reduced hours or closed entirely on slow days like Monday or Tuesday just to reduce labor costs, but that also reduces revenue and market presence. Now let's talk about what happens when equipment fails catastrophically. Pinsetter machines can be rebuilt or replaced, but the cost is staggering. A full rebuild of a pinsetter machine costs $12,000 to $18,000 per lane. Complete replacement with a new machine costs $20,000 to $28,000. If you own a center with 24 lanes and the equipment is 20 years old, you are facing a potential capital requirement of $288,000 to $672,000 to replace or rebuild all the machines over a 3 to 5 year period. Most owners cannot afford that. They limp along, repairing machines as they break, cannibalizing parts from one machine to keep another running. But as more lanes go down and stay down, revenue drops. A 24-lane center that effectively operates as an 18-lane center because 6 lanes are chronically broken loses 25% of revenue capacity. The business enters a death spiral. Declining revenue, inability to invest in repairs, more equipment failures, further revenue decline. Let's run the numbers 2 ways: best case and realistic case. Best case. You purchase a well-located 24-lane center in a growing suburban market for $1.8 million with modern equipment less than 10 years old. You invest an additional $300,000 in cosmetic upgrades, bar expansion, and marketing. Your total investment is $2.1 million. You put down $600,000 and finance $1.5 million. You execute extremely well on events and parties, driving that revenue stream to 12% of total instead of 5%. You build a strong food and beverage program that represents 42% of revenue with good execution and margins. Your total annual revenue grows to $1.75 million within 18 months. You control labor tightly at 29% and negotiate a favorable lease at $32,000 per month, or $384,000 annually. Your operating expenses run at 94% of revenue. Operating profit, $105,000. After debt service of $166,000, you are losing $61,000 annually in the early years, but by year 4, as revenue grows to $1.95 million and you refinance at better terms, you reach break-even and begin generating $40,000 to $60,000 in annual profit while working 50 to 55 hours per week managing the operation. After 12 years, you have built some equity and the business provides modest income, though nowhere near the returns you would have achieved investing the same capital elsewhere. Realistic case. You purchase a tired 24-lane center in a stagnant market for $1.4 million. The equipment is 18 years old. You invest $75,000 in immediate repairs and updates. Total investment, $1.475 million. You finance $1 million and put down $475,000. You face more competition than expected. A new entertainment center with bowling, arcade, and trampoline park opens 4 miles away, pulling 15% of your customer base. League participation continues to decline 3% to 5% annually. Your revenue struggles at $1.15 million. Your lease is $38,000 per month, or $456,000 annually, locked in for 10 years. Operating expenses run at 105% of revenue. You are losing $57,500 annually before debt service. After your loan payment of $112,000, you are losing $169,500 per year. You work 60-plus hours per week, draining your savings to cover losses. By year 3, facing a major equipment failure that would cost $180,000 to fix properly, you close the business, default on the loan, and lose your entire $475,000 investment plus 3 years of your life. The difference between those outcomes is not the business model. Both are 24-lane bowling centers. The difference is location quality, competitive dynamics, equipment condition, the operator's ability to execute on food and beverage and events, and lease terms that can make or break the entire operation. The U.S. bowling industry generates approximately $4 billion in annual revenue across roughly 3,500 to 4,000 bowling centers, down from over 10,000 centers in the 1960s. The industry has been in slow decline for decades. The number of centers closing annually exceeds the number opening. The centers that survive are increasingly large-scale entertainment complexes, 40-plus lanes with full restaurants, bars, arcades, and event spaces, or niche upscale boutique concepts in urban markets. The traditional 16 to 24-lane suburban bowling center that depended on leagues is disappearing. The economics no longer support it. Fixed costs are too high. Revenue is too inconsistent. Capital requirements for equipment replacement are prohibitive relative to returns. The investors who succeed in bowling are typically those who acquire centers at distressed prices, well below replacement cost, with favorable or owned real estate eliminating the crushing rent burden, who execute exceptionally well on high-margin food and beverage and event revenue, who have the capital reserves to invest in ongoing equipment maintenance and periodic renovations, or who operate multiple centers achieving some operational and purchasing efficiencies at scale. The investors who fail are almost always those who overpaid for an asset believing the revenue was stable and sustainable, underestimated ongoing capital requirements for equipment and building maintenance, could not adapt to changing consumer preferences and declining league participation, or were crushed by high occupancy costs with a lease they could not renegotiate or escape. Bowling alleys are real businesses. The industry has history and nostalgia. But nostalgia does not pay the electric bill. The business model worked when leagues filled lanes 6 nights a week and generated predictable recurring revenue. That model is gone for most markets. What remains is a high fixed-cost entertainment business competing in an increasingly crowded landscape with consumers who have unlimited alternatives. The pins fall when you throw a strike. That does not mean the business makes money.